Hey ladies, are you like me? You absolutely love vintage looks, but you're not so crazy about wearing skirts? That's what we're going to talk about today on Reconstructing History Vintage.
If we buy into the idea that a glimpse of a woman's ankle is shocking in the Victorian period, you might expect that women wearing trousers would cause a scandal. But women wearing trousers or pants isn't a new concept in the early 20th century. Indeed, in the Muslim world, the Prophet Muhammad advocated the wearing of trousers by women as a way to protect and preserve their modesty. From what we know of early medieval dress, many times men and women wore the same clothing, all the same pieces, only the women's were a bit longer. And equestrian women, even when riding side saddle, have been wearing some form of pants under their riding skirts for so long that we don't really know when the practice began. However, in the West, it is true that women didn't wear trousers where anyone could see them. At the turn of the 20th century, long skirts were the norm for women. The dress reform movement of the 1840s started the idea that it was healthier for women to wear pants. In 1851, Elizabeth Smith Miller introduced what came to be known as the bloomer suit, consisting of a long tunic and baggy pantaloons. Magazine editor Amelia Jenks Bloomer enthusiastically promoted the outfit in her magazine, and thus it was named after her. But the costume was a subject of widespread ridicule. Even Ms. Bloomer abandoned the fashion by 1859. With the coming of the bicycle in the 1890s, however, the bloomer suit experienced a revival, but it was not attractive enough to catch on beyond the realm of exercise. However, the new century brought radical changes in many areas of daily life. Following on the popularity of bloomers worn for cycling, wealthy women demanded skirts that would allow them to ride their horses more easily, and their tailors complied. Many ingeniously engineered skirts were developed. Here is an example from the 19-teens, called the Shackleton Safety Riding Skirt. It was likely patented. It looks like a regular long skirt from the front, but in the back, it cleverly wraps around the legs, allowing the female rider to position her legs around the horns of her side saddle without getting caught in her skirts. A shift began to happen, and women wanted to ride more comfortably. So women began to demand skirts that would allow them to ride astride. Tailors developed split skirts that allowed women to ride with a leg on each side of the horse. In keeping with contemporary sensibilities, a panel buttoned across the legs in front so the woman wouldn't appear to have legs. In the early teens, New York socialite and teenage wife of one of the richest men in the world, Madeline Astor, made riding astride fashionable, but the First World War knocked these youthful new ideas back on their heels for a few more years. After the Great War, society changed radically, and that was reflected nowhere more strongly than in fashion. Gabrielle Coco Chanel decided that her boyfriend's trousers were just too comfortable to ignore, so she borrowed them. She wore white trousers with a black jacket and a neckcloth to Cannes, and began a revolution. We don't think of Chanel as being an innovator in women's trousers, but she certainly was ahead of the crowd. She brought beach pajamas to Cannes. These were voluminous trousers worn on the beach to cover up after swimming. Women enthusiastically adopted this fashion, and they were not harassed for wearing beach pajamas as they were for wearing the short bathing suits. Beach pajamas sneaked off the beach and into daily life in the form of lounging pajamas, and then into daily casual dress. Baggy pajamas weren't the only pants coming to prominence in the 1920s. Some women adopted men's trousers and waistcoats and jackets outright. Along with these male clothes came a very masculine haircut, the Eton crop. Academy Award-winning silent film star Bessie Love brought the style into the mainstream. Of course, there have been women dressing as men for a very long time. Throughout history, there are well-documented cases of women pretending to be men in order to further their professions, to get into places women were forbidden, and to hide their real identities. In the 1920s, there seems to have been an explosion of women openly dressing as men and taking traditional male roles in society. Many of these women were lesbians, living openly gay. Others were educated women protesting the confining rules society placed on women. But not all women wearing men's clothes in the 1920s were lesbians or radicals bucking the norm. This is a picture of my grandmother, Mary Ferrari, in 1927, with her best friend, Mamie, and my great-grandmother, Sylvia. This was my Nona's hen night. It was the thing to steal your husband's suit before the wedding and go out on the town dressed as him. And this is my grandmother and grandfather on their wedding day. In 1930, actress Marlene Dietrich shocked and seduced the world by wearing a man's tuxedo in the film Morocco. In this film, she not only provocatively wore a tuxedo, she kissed another woman. Hollywood latched on to Marlene's cross-dressing appeal and suited her up in men's clothing again and again and again. Ms. Dietrich clearly enjoyed wearing men's suits. And the suits sure loved her. No discussion of women wearing trousers in the early 20th century could be complete without mentioning Katharine Hepburn. Unlike Marlene Dietrich, Hollywood didn't insinuate that Ms. Hepburn was bisexual. Indeed, it wasn't Hollywood that put her in trousers at all. It was her own decision. Famously athletic, when asked why she wore trousers, Ms. Hepburn simply told the press she found them more comfortable, and they became a sensation. It would be many decades before trousers would become respectable clothing for women in all but the most casual contexts. But trousers certainly were being worn in the early years of the 20th century, so there's no reason for lovers of vintage clothing to avoid wearing the pants.
So there you have it. Trousers for women in a vintage context. If you've liked this video, please remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can become our Patreon at patreon.com/reconstructinghistory or buy our patterns at reconstructinghistory.com. See you next time.